But in order to be in that victory line, we have to learn to submit ourselves and allow God to renew our minds. When you read the Bible, the things you read, we need to implement, And I think so many times people read stuff, and, honestly, I have personally talked to pastors, some pastors, and I'm not going to call their names and put any of them out. Like I said, I'm not a church hater. I just don't like the way some churches and some religious people function. And that's something that we need to break and we need to address. But some pastors won't preach about certain topics because they're afraid to address those topics in the church. They're afraid of addressing the stubbornness and the pride in their own church. They're afraid to call out their congregation into renewing their mind. Of course, I'll go into it on another day. I'm going to need a little bit more time to talk about some of those topics that the church won't address. But the church needs to get to the point now. We don't need to talk about what makes everybody happy. That's not preaching, really. We need to preach. We can preach the good things, but it's some bad things, you have to do. It's some things you have to learn that you're going to have to give up in order to submit yourself to God. Regardless of what some may say, you hear it all the time. A lot of these people, I use entertainment as an example a lot of times because that's something I was involved in, and, something I paid a lot of attention to, and I think it's something important that affects our young people especially. But, people ask me all the time, what's the problem that I have with a lot of entertainers? Because a lot of entertainers, they rap about, violence, drugs, everything that goes against God, and they win awards, and they thank God. They thank God for it. And then you see some of them, get embraced by a church. And I'm not saying the church should turn their back on anybody. And I'll get to that when I start speaking about, the religious attitudes. But at the same time, we have to stop condoning these people who are preaching one thing and, that's totally out of alignment with God. We have to learn to submit our lifestyles, and put it in alignment with God for our minds to be renewed. You're either for God or you're against Him. There's no in between. You can't really play the line. I used to always use the excuse that, I used to push the line, bend but don't break it. But, when you push that line, you're really playing both sides of the stick, and you can't do that. So the main thing I wanted to emphasize today was we need to remember to submit ourselves, squash our stubbornness, squash our pride, stop allowing the devil to throw things that separate us, that separate families, friends, spouses. Like I said, half the time it's not even that serious or that important. I look back at the arguments and the fights I had with my own cousins, and to this day, we're like brothers. But we always had to learn. Somebody had to squash the stubbornness and apologize first, regardless of who it was, and then, the other one to kind of fall in with it. But it could have been squashed from the jump a lot of times. And that comes into the part where I say you have to learn to submit yourself. Learn to submit yourself, allow God to renew your mind, and then use you in the position that He placed you in. With that new mind, that new spirit, that new lifestyle you have, let that affect, let it shine on those around you. You may be in a dark place in your life. You may be in what America may say is a low class or a poor society, but that doesn't mean that you still can't be faithful and that you still can't be renewed and have a new lifestyle and affect those that are around you. I was watching Joyce Myers, and I love the saying she says, stop letting those around you infect you and start affecting those around you with what God is doing in you and God is doing through you. And I think we all should take that into effect. It's not saying that all my friends are living their life in what I think would be in alignment with God, but all my friends will tell you I'm still their friend, and they look at me differently now because they see a difference in me. They see the renewed renewed mind. They see the growth. They see my maturity. But it doesn't mean that, you know, I don't speak to them or I cut them completely off. And I think the church is the same way. We don't have to cut people off because they're not what we believe or we judge to be living the perfect lifestyle. We need to embrace those people and correct them and show them the right way. And at the same time, the church, in the overall general sense, has gotten afraid to correct people. We can't be afraid of correction. That comes with pride. Don't be so prideful that you can't allow somebody to correct you. Don't be so stubborn that somebody can't correct you. You know, especially with your elders. You know, I used to be told all the time when I first started really going to church. You know, Jody used to tell me all the time, you know, hey man, you need to watch what you're listening to. And, you know, I didn't want to hear. it. Man, it don't affect me. I'm just banging the beats. And then over time, as my mind got renewed, I stopped having the urge to listen to some of the things that I used to listen to. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to bang it because I knew what I represented and I knew what the music was representing. Regardless if you saying you listening to it for the beat or not, you know, your mind mentally, you still hear those lyrics. And those lyrics, you know, that we listen to a lot of times, and like I said, I use the entertainment because that's what I was involved in. Those lyrics we listen to a lot of times are not in alignment with God. So we have to learn to submit ourselves. And as you submit yourself, like I said, God will renew your mind. He'll change your thoughts. And as long as you stay faithful and continue to push and continue to submit yourself, you'll have growth and you'll grow in maturity in with the Lord and in with God. And you'll slowly but surely, your lifestyle will change. And people will see your lifestyle change. They'll hear it in your speech. They'll see it in your actions. All those things take part by when you learn to submit. And like I said, it's not always going to be the best thing in mind. You know, people always tell me, man, you know, I don't want to do that because that means I can't do this, this, and this. But God knows what's best for us. And a lot of things that we do, a lot of those things is really not a good outcome. And it's really, to me, when you really break it down, it's not worth it. It's not worth what you risk to do those things. And a lot of things that you do can be done in a different fashion. Like I say, I still bang my music. And, you know, if you see me on the street, you want to question me on it, you want to check it out, I cut it up and I let you check it out. But what I bang now is I bang music with a purpose. I bang music with praise, you know, praise and worship. But I'm still banging. I still got my windows rattling and seats vibrating. But what I'm vibrating it with is not something that's damaging to my soul. It's something that's more uplifting to my soul and uplifting to people that hear it. But that came with me finally submitting myself and stop being stubborn because somebody else was telling me something I didn't want to hear or I had an excuse for it. So I swallowed my pride and stopped being stubborn, and God renewed my mind. And the more I learned to submit myself and submit different things in my life, the more I realize and I see that my mind is different. My thoughts are not the same. My reactions are not the same to different situations. I haven't been as argumentative. Because, like I said, 99% of the times an argument does nothing but divide. And it's not saying that you can't reunite, but when we refuse to submit ourselves and we want to maintain being stubborn and prideful, a lot of times we let arguments and different disagreements separate us. And you separate yourself from the people that you really do care about, or the people that you like, or the people that you work with, whatever you want to look at it. And it's really usually not worth going through. Or, you know, the argument is over something, you know, as silly as who drank the last Coke out the refrigerator, or, you know, those type things, and you allow it to boil over. And then from one subject, you shooting at another subject, and before you know it, y'all shooting back at each other, or about different things, just being negative toward each other. And it's not worth it. Like I say, no matter where you are in life, no matter what your position is, whether you got 2 cents in your bank account or you got 100 million, you still have to learn how to submit yourself. God don't look at class. It's not an upper class or lower class in God's eyes. We all God's people. We all gonna go through gates of heaven, you know, when we learn learn to submit ourselves and allow God to renew our minds. And that's the main thing, is learn to submit, squash your stubbornness, squash being so prideful all the time. And like I said, allow God to renew your mind, and then jump in the battle 100. No matter if you're on the front line or you calling the shots. We all in the same battle. So a battle of the spirit is not of the flesh. But the war is already won. We just got to stay in the battle and stay in the fight. So it doesn't matter where you are, you know, whether it doesn't matter where you work, doesn't matter if you convicted felon or if you in the penitentiary. God can use you no matter where you are. If you submit yourself to God 100%, mind, body, and soul, God can use you. God will renew your mind, and God will use you. God will, even when everybody else thinks that you're not for real, you can't last, and you can't make it, God can still renew your mind and bring you brand new. Regardless of what they know about the old you, God can use you. And like I said, I refer to myself because I can talk about myself. I don't like to talk about other people. But, you know, God has used me even when, you know, I didn't believe in myself. You know, things that I've done in life, you know, I talk about it on another note, but things that I've done in my past that I didn't feel like I was forgiven for. You know, there's been times, you know, I felt like I actually hated God because I felt like I was still getting punished for things. And that was really the devil using my mind, because I didn't submit completely, mentally. I didn't submit my mind, you know, and the devil took over a lot of thoughts in my mind and had me thinking negative when it really was nothing like that. And, you know, even now, it's people that really don't support what I'm doing, or they don't really believe that it's me doing this because they know the old me. But once you become renewed in your mind, God takes the old things and He makes them new. But, you know, when everybody else thought was broken down, God can restore it. And that's what the relationship with God is all about. It's about restoration and renewing things. So don't just have a religion. Don't just read the Bible and think that you reading the Bible, you saved. Don't just think because you're in the church house you saved. You got to have a relationship. And once you get a relationship and you learn to submit yourself in that relationship, it's just like any other relationship. You refuse to, you know, submit to your boyfriend, girlfriend, your husband, or wife. Both of y'all being stubborn, you're probably going to have some issues. And both of y'all being prideful, you're probably going to have some issues. But once you learn to submit and learn that your way really wasn't the best way, God knows what's best for us, and God can use the best in us even when everybody else thinks it's not anything good that can come from it. But learn to submit yourself spiritually, mentally, body, heart, and soul. And God will renew you. You'll mature. Like I said, your whole speech process, your mental process, thought process, your actions, and everything change. And that's when faith really begins to shine bright. Like I said, no matter if you're in the darkest spot it is in the world, people will start to see the light shining from you. And that's what we're here to be. We're here to be the light on top of the hill to lead others. And that's what God does. He takes those who nobody believed in and nobody thought could do what you're doing. And as you mature, you'll see that God can take you there. So, like I said, squash the stubbornness, squash the pride. No matter where you are in life, no matter what you're doing, God can take you. Just get yourself in alignment with God, and He'll take you and you'll rise to the top. Appreciate y'all for checking it out. Once again, it's FiGGa TV, 316 Ministries. I'm out.